Dave has built thousands, that's right, thousands with a T, of homes and residential and commercial structures over that time. And Dave now has grown all the way up to work with businesses and governments internationally, that's right, to help them build things better, more efficient, environmentally friendly, and faster. Dave is on the cutting edge of the building technology in the world.
Housing and how we've been building, it's been the same for well over, 100, 150
Couple hundred years, yeah.
The techniques haven't changed. Maybe the codes have forced us to do things a little bit better here and again. If it was working, we wouldn't have the homeless problem we have right now.
Hey, Best Over listeners, I'm really excited for this guest. Dave Cooper is the host of Dave Cooper Live, which is a LinkedIn YouTube program that has millions of downloads that you guys should check out, talking about the new age of technology coming into the building space. He also has decades of experience as a builder and a business owner in the building space.
It's an honor to be on the show.
Everybody talks about the housing shortage in the US, right? And my bet is, I don't know this because I don't track international markets like I'm sure you do, but my bet is that most international communities also have a housing shortage. Affordable housing, right? Not bougie billion-dollar houses, affordable houses. Why, Dave? Why is there a housing shortage in America and perhaps in the world?
For one, the population's growing around the world in a big way. And two, the easiest way to sum it up is supply and demand have went up, especially during COVID, right? I think that the people living on the streets probably quadrupled since COVID started. And also the cost of supplies went up since COVID, right? Everything took a hike, all the way to our milk and our bread and our lunch meat. With that said, you have a supply and demand problem. You have builders around the world. If we look at who's building these homes, and this is probably going to strike some people as not true, but it's easy when you have these mega builders that are doing 50, 60, 70, 100,000 home subdivisions. They can also control the supply and demand of housing, right? And get the higher numbers. But the reality of it is we got a couple different problems. One, the cost of materials has gone through the roof. Two, our workforce is just not there. Young kids, to include my own, have no desire to be out walking cold sill plates in the wintertime nailing something. They'd rather be making their money playing Fortnite. I think it's a hurricane approach of a bunch of different things that have come together, but it really starts with the cost of housing, the cost of materials has gone up, but our income and our wages have not gone up with it. And that causes a big problem. And if you are one of the big builders out there building, you own the supply and you control the demand, and that's also good for them, which isn't good for us. The reality of it is, if you control the supply, you can control the price, you can build less, charge more, versus build in higher volume and work on their 8 to 10% margins, right? So it just depends on how you skin the cat, so to speak.
Yeah. And also, and I've done some building minor stuff as well. And it took a while to get the local regulations out of the way so that I could build what I wanted to build. How much of the local government, I'm talking like local municipalities, towns, those kinds of things, how much are they in the way of creating more housing, affordable housing for people to live in?
Yeah. Listen, politics always gets involved, right? And communities also get involved depending on what it is. But I think regulation is a big hurdle for us to overcome. The materials that are required to build today and the process of what has to happen to get approvals to build has become almost prohibitive from moving fast to keep up with supply and demand. It's a major problem, but it's one that I think is being looked at more and more today than it has in the past because there's too many people on the streets.
Yeah. And the people on the streets don't need $1 million houses. They certainly need jobs and income and everything like that as well. But they probably can't afford a $500,000 house as well. So how does this get solved then? So that's why there is a problem. You're not talking about, we can't be referring to building houses that are selling at $500,000 a clip, right? Or even, let's even say units, right? Because maybe it's not a full house. Maybe it is a part of a structure like an apartment or a condo. How do we get there? We can build it to where people at the lower end of the income scale can afford to have a piece, can afford to own or even lease something like this. Because it's okay for an investor like my company to build something and then lease it to somebody that's on the lower end of the income scale. But how is that done? Like how can we start to solve this problem?
Yeah, one of the things that's the issue is in the affordability range is how do we mass produce housing? How do we do it at a scale, just like automobiles and others, where you can curate and productize your approach to actually building, supply quality housing, supply quality products in those housing, right? people that are down on their luck that are living on the streets, a lot of them just they don't need a handout, they just need a leg up. But the way we're looking at it, manufacturing has to play a part in this at this point, right? That's the only way that we can control the supply chain, control the value, control the cost, and produce at high volumes versus site building, and get the quality that one deserves, right? There's building, and then there's building cheap homes, which we don't want to do.
Right.
We want to build affordable. We want to build sustainable. We want the homes to be energy efficient, if not even net zero for the occupants, right? They don't need high utility bills. But manufacturing is having a huge role in a couple of the countries like Sweden and Finland and others. 70-80% of their housing is now manufactured housing. When I say manufactured, I'm not talking trailer parks, man. I'm talking everything from a single family, double wide type ranch home all the way up to mega multi-million-dollar projects. These are quality, but it's going to take manufacturing moving forward. Unless you find a way to talk young people into swinging a hammer in the cold weather. I don't think it's going to happen. But it is always sunny and 70 inside a manufacturing environment.
Yeah. And then there's perhaps a wage issue that needs to happen on the construction side. And maybe if you're working in a factory, I'm saying, again, you and I are just playing maybe, but hey, guess what? We're the two guys with the microphone, so let's play maybe. If you have a manufacturing facility that's able to produce 10x more housing than a company could in the field, right? Perhaps you're able to pay a better living wage to the folks that are working in the factory. Not talking about socialism, I'm talking about just providing more opportunity, throughput, economic efficiency that allows you to pay better wages. And so maybe that 22-year-old knucklehead just getting out of high school or college or whatever is able to make a better living wage and buy a house himself or herself and feed a family or whatever. And yeah, they work in a factory, but it's like you said, it's a clean 70-degree environment. Maybe there's some robotics involved or some other cool tech that does some of the not so fun work or whatever. And they're able to, yes, build houses. God forbid they're in construction, but they're able to get a better living wage for doing it. Is that an assumption that I'm making here? What do you think?
No, I don't think it's an assumption, right? So one of the things when you're working in a factory environment for construction, and it could be components, right? Most of your audience probably knows trusses, knows panels, right? Even modular homes are all panels and trusses. It's just the way they're assembled and where they're assembled. But for the young people or for our workforce in general, the whole concept is how do we do more with less? How do we build more homes with less people at the moment? Because that's what we have. We have a shortage of labor in this country. And with that said, in a manufacturing environment today, especially the more advanced factories coming on, you can run a couple 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility with a half a dozen people, depending on what the automation is there. But the other side of the factory that opens up the workforce is it allows for more diversity. You don't need a big, burly, strong man like yourself, Matt, to be lugging around 4x8 pieces of sheetrock and all of that stuff. Now in a factory environment, everybody, women, men, doesn't matter, can all do the same job. So this is where you actually bring together everybody.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so bottom lining it, you're saying that factory-based, manufactured offsite housing can provide better jobs. It can provide better operational efficiencies to build things faster. It can fill the housing need faster. And we're going to unpack all this stuff best ever, listeners, right? Housing's been built, as you said, by pretty much big, burly, mostly men in the field and everything like that, whether it's union labor, non-union labor, whatever. These are folks that either went to a trade school or just learned it through an apprentice program or whatever on how to swing hammers, how to run pipe, and how to do the physical work in the field. And that's how housing's been built over the years. Tell me how we evolve, how do we get to that point on how housing's still built in the way that it is, and unpack it. Just give us a little bit of a history lesson if you don't mind.
Yeah, listen, housing and how we've been building, it's been the same for well over, 100, 150
couple hundred years. Yeah.
The techniques haven't changed. Maybe the codes have forced us to do things a little bit better here and again. If it was working, we wouldn't have the homeless problem we have right now. If it was working and it was meeting the needs of the young people and where their minds were today, they'd be in the trades doing what they need to do. Doesn't mean we don't need the trades. We need every ounce of it. We need skilled labor. We need carpenters and plumbers and HVAC. Hell, if I were to start over, I'd become an electrician or a plumber right now. I'd probably make a hell of a lot more money than I do doing this.
I tell you what.
But,
College kid listening, go to trade school, learn how to plumb, start your own business. Every guy that I know that owns a trade business does very well for themselves. But keep going. So you're saying that the manufacturing process hasn't changed very much over the last 100, 200 years. Maybe like little tweaks like materials. Like, oh, now we're using PEX instead of copper. Now instead of using balloon construction technology, we're using more of a framed, not putting a piece of lumber, whatever you feel like it, we're putting it 16 on center, right? So some of the rules have changed, but from what you're saying, if you look at it macroscopically, it really hasn't changed much if you look at how we build stuff. Why is that?
So just as a correction, not manufacturing, but site building, right?
Site building, yes, that's what we're talking.
Yeah.
We're talking digging a hole in the ground and coming in with rocks and sticks and copper and building a house in maybe, if you're lucky, a year. Right? That it take to get something like that out of the ground. And you sure hope they don't go broke between now and the time that you're done. Some of the best ever listeners that have ever tried new construction as an investment strategy understand that's how this goes. It can take a long time to get it out of the ground. And you cross your fingers and you really hope that you get to a certificate of occupancy at some point in the near future.
Yeah, and you also hope that you don't come across that extinct frog or something they just found and it shuts your job down for that. But
possible.
Listen, so I think you asked why did it have to change? This is more the question, like why evolve when everybody's making money and doing what they do? There's been some housing crises like 2008 and others that you and I both have gone through. But now it's worse, right? The spotlight is on the industry. The spotlight is on homelessness, and this is what's forcing the change. Another thing that's forcing the change is technology, right? We haven't, in our industry, looked at data the way every other industry looks at data, right? The housing industry does not look at it the way we've been looking at it from a production standpoint, from a productization standpoint, and how do you deliver better, more efficient, all of that. Homelessness, the people living on the streets and not able to afford a home is too high now. And I think even the people that build the homes are sitting there saying, my kids can't even afford a home. My 16-year-old daughters will never be able to afford a home if it keeps going the way we're going. And that is home ownership. And then you turn it around on the other side and you get companies like BlackRock and others that are now buying single-family homes as they come on the market. So there's a land grab going on that side.
Sure.
But getting back to your initial question, the pandemic has shed a light on how expensive things are becoming. And I think people are really starting to recognize that.
And that's the demand curve has been pushing it up. Supply has stayed around the same. If you look at housing starts, they stop and start and everything like that. But housing starts has never been an exponential or linear curve increasing the way that populations have, right? It's been start, stop. If you look at multifamily housing starts, single family housing starts, it should be a hockey stick, but it's not. And that's the only way you're going to make housing more affordable. And it is profitable for the builders and for the developers and for the investors like us if you're able to build in high quantity and still achieve margins. But yeah, maybe there's still stick-framed luxury homes and everything like that. You can still do that if you really want that. Are you saying that stick framing, old school technology needs to go? Does that need to go away completely for us to get to the next level, or can it still exist?
Yeah, it's still going to exist. Off-site manufacturing or modern methods of construction, whatever we're going to call it, is just a piece of the entire puzzle.
Okay.
You're still going to need some stick framing. There's still places you can't get with a panel or a module. So that's going to need to be there. But I wanted to put it in perspective just so people understand the numbers, right? Pre-pandemic, housing is almost 50%, 47% higher than it was 4 years ago. Think about that. Almost 50% more for what?
Same thing. Yeah. So let's talk about the onset of offsite construction. When some people are thinking of offsite construction, they may be thinking of like a big old box, like a double wide or a trailer or something like that, or a mobile home or something like that. That perhaps, I remember I used to live in South Jersey and there was one of the, you remember the old Sears and Roebuck houses where literally you could order it out of a catalog and it would show up in the back of a truck and shablam, there was your house, right? Was that the original modular tech or does it go back, off-site construction, or does it go back earlier than that?
That's really the original here in the United States, but it goes back earlier than that in Europe. Those kid homes from Sears are still standing.
Yeah, they're very boxy. They were very boxy. You could tell it showed up on the back of a truck because it looks like you could pick it up and put it back on a truck if you wanted to. But yeah, when I did a lot of fix and flips, we did a reno on one of those, and it was solid. It wasn't like paper thin. The new stuff getting built now, stick framed, is more paper thin than that house was when we did it. So that was the original. right? How talk about the evolution and just unpack a little bit about when you say, for those that don't know, what offsite construction, in fact, just because you and I are making some assumptions. We're assuming that people know what it is we're even talking about. Teach us a bit about what offsite construction is and how we got from Sears kid homes to today.
I'm even confused on the nomenclature of some of this because everybody calls things different words. In the traditional sense, manufactured homes are your homes with wheels on them, right? They have a steel chassis, and it's what people would think about as the old school modular manufactured homes, right? Manufactured, you go from a HUD-based product to when you start getting into modular construction. Modular construction is built like any other site-built home. It's just the process in which it's built. Same material, same code, same everything that needs to be met to build on site with the local codes. Now, so what are the differences? When we talk about off-site construction, we're talking about modular, we're talking about panels, trusses, components, mass timber, CLT, cold form steel construction if it's used in a panelized approach. So that's what off-site construction is. The other words that are used around the world is they call it modern methods of construction.
In the U.S., we won't call it that. Over there, they see where this is. This is just how it's done today. This is modern. This is new technology. In the U.S., we can't call it that because that means we're downplaying the old school way to do it. Right?
Well, and some people are even thinking we should call it industrialized construction. I'm like, how horrible does that sound for a consumer?
Yeah.
Oh, industrialized.
It sounds like it came out of like a pipe or something like that. I mean, it sounds like it's made with radioactive materials.
But this is one of the problems we have. It's a newer industry, right? When I say newer, it's been around a long time. But now there is an influx of investors and money in this community. So everybody's trying to find the right way to parlay this to the consumer, to the developers, the new investors, and trying to understand it. But overall, that's what encompasses offsite, modern methods of construction, industrialized construction. It's building in components or full volumetric builds, which would be modular. Volumetric and modular are the same, in a factory environment, and then being brought to the job site and location.